Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Miss Marvel Season 1, Episode 2. So, I kind of wrote off the first pilot episode of this show to just say, like, you know what? Like, there's some potential there. Like, yeah, it was boring, but there's some potential there. But then I also had in my mind the fact that once you go on, you have a pilot episode that is to give you a theme of something, which I guess that theme for the first pilot episode would just kind of be boredom. I'm like, these shows usually have a pattern, and eventually, somehow, this episode just got worse as far as it being boring. So, here's the thing. If people are to go on and view this review, I'll keep watching the show. If no one reviews it or watches it via a week's time, I'll stop watching the show. We'll call it a day. However, this character is going to get shoved out into the MCU, I don't think it'll matter for me to really know anything about her or how her show ended, because I could just watch Marvel Rising, which is much more an exciting, cartoon, but it's same character, Miss Marvel's in it, and why do I need to watch this show when I can just watch Marvel Rising, a much more entertaining cartoon, yes, but much more an entertaining show than whatever this is. As boring as it is, I can just get the back history and just be more entertained by that. It's okay. It's great. Like, I can watch the cartoon. Like, kind of like Inhumans. I was like, why wouldn't I just go on and watch like the Inhumans motion comic rather than the show? But I honestly feel like Inhumans seems much more interesting than this. Uh, so maybe I'll get back into Inhumans. It seems like people are interested in Inhumans, the show, so I guess I might as well probably check that out. It'll give me something to do every week. So, Miss Marvel. For this second episode, we go on and are going to tee up this second episode. I feel like anything that I'm going to say for the tee up is basically spoiling this episode for how uneventful it is. So, in the second episode, we have Miss Marvel practicing her powers, which I'm like, okay. Like, we're having a, like, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man kind of approach to this character, and I'm like, man, we are slogging this thing out here. We don't even have a villain yet, and it's episode 2. How many episodes are there going to be? 6, and they haven't even presented us with a villain? Are you freaking kidding me? Oh my god. This is gotta be a joke. So we have Miss Marvel, and she's testing on her powers, but it seems that in episode 2, her powers are also going a little haywire. There's certain times where, like, her powers are kind of taking control of her. To where all of a sudden, we have it to where her bracelet is glowing, or Miss Marvel is to kind of have her, like, nose glow or her hands glow at wrong times, as if she's like Michael J. Fox's Teen Wolf, where all of a sudden, like, when he's at some points having his, like, claws come out, or he's starting to grow hair or something like that, and he can't understand whatever this is. Kind of like that a lot for this episode. But not only that, we have Miss Marvel Kamala, who is to go on and have a new guy in school. I'm like, really? So that's how you're gonna waste my effing time with new guy in school? Like, such a unoriginal way to just waste time in a show. Not only that, Miss Marvel is to find new guy in school, be like, I want me some of that. And so that's where we take the whole good chunk of this episode with Miss Marvel being interested in new guy in school and her getting to know him and all of this. Oh, wow, how exciting. But then we also have it to where Nakia, Kamala's friend, is to also like have her kind of story going on in her episode. So we're not even focusing on Kamala anymore. We're just focusing on other people. We've given up on Kamala already. We're trying to like do things for other people also in this show. We have Zoe that's being taken in by some agents we now find out are DODC members. And I'm like, so they're not like agents of SWORD, they're not agents of SHIELD, so why waste my time? Generic cops looking for superpower people, I could care less. More than likely, these people might have been rolled into like the same like WandaVision people. Like I'm assuming like those like those and these are one and the same, right? Because we don't really have Shield, so I guess we just have to go on and just have like DOD. So great, wonderful, fantastic, boring, and so then we have to eventually have Nakia, who is kind of politicking and going and taking this one big massive Eid gathering, EID, spell that and say that however you want. So Eid gathering, that eventually is to have Nakia politic through everybody, and then we also go on and have Miss Marvel that has to go and do kind of the same thing, exact same thing that she did in episode 1 with the exclusion of the whole Avengers Con, but it'll be fairly similar. And then she has to go on and run away from people. And we, at the end of this episode, have this new character that is supposed to surprise us and just be like, oh, who is this? I don't care. I don't care who this is. I could care less. Like, they are... Like, the thing that they should have done at the end of this episode, they should have done at the very beginning. And we should have gotten that story, because all of this was such a waste. Just irkingly so. Get to the f***ing point, Marvel. Get to the point with your frickin' shows. Oh my god. This is so awful, this show. Man. How is Marvel getting worse? Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was an amazing film, I felt. Not everybody felt that way. But man, these shows, for the most part, are so irksome. And you have to watch them because they're going to be tied to the MCU somehow. Because WandaVision was, and that was actually a good enough show to justify, like, oh, okay, like, I could see having to watch that show to then get what's going on now. But some of these, I think, are going to be hit and miss, where it's like, hey, they're going to be rolled into the MCU. I don't care. For us to really go on and find out how they're to be added later on, years down the road, and just be like, oh, who cares? Yeah, that was great. For me to have to watch this whole series just to find out that this girl is to be in a movie that I probably won't really be interested in watching. Man, that's gonna be great. It's just that's smart marketing, Marvel. Smart marketing. So, so yeah. So let's go into spoilers in this one. Let's just go into that double five because otherwise, that time again to go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time we're gonna spoil this show. So again, you have the power to have me continue to be watching this show. If you want to watch this more than once to get viewership up on this thing, then I have to miserably just continue to watch the show. If you just want to just see me in agony, then go ahead, just watch this video multiple times, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess this is justified enough to continue to watch this. Because eventually Batwoman also existed at one point. And that show is now canceled. So we'll see how long Miss Marvel is to really just exist, especially with Kenobi being over. Once Kenobi is probably over, this show is going to take a massive hit. Because if this is going to be the only thing on, like, no, like, good, I don't have anything to tune into on Wednesdays. So with that said, let's go into spoilers. Spoiler time. Yeah, let's do all that. So, in the very beginning of this episode, we go on and we have Kamala, who is training to use her powers, and we of course have Bruno, who is helping her with training. And so she's trying to get used to all of this stuff, and it kind of seems like it works. It's not perfect. Eventually, Kamala is to kind of come into these powers and figure them all out. So there's some learning blocks to kind of go with this. So Kamala then goes to school, and because she is basically Miss Marvel, or what they're all calling her, Nightlight, man, does that gotta suck. Hey, she's Nightlight! A kid's thing! She's not a grown woman. She's not Miss Marvel. Man, I can't wait till she actually goes on and is to get a legit name and legit outfit. That'll take, like, what, 4 episodes from now? They'll actually stop calling her Nightlight. So, we have Miss Marvel going to school, Kamala going to school. I've kind of given up calling her Kamala already. So we have Kamala goes to school, and she comes in there much more confident, is to basically be like strutting her stuff. She's basically Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3 already, within 2 episodes. She's kind of become that person now. So seriously, people gave crap for Spider-Man 3, but aren't gonna give Miss Marvel crap for becoming basically Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3. She's basically that person right now, and people will like this show. I don't get it. So Miss Marvel or Kamala is coming in there more confident, going and not having these basketballs hit her this time around, like doing the exact same thing from episode 1, but she's doing it much more confident, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to my locker this time around because, oh yeah, like I'm more confident now. So all of a sudden it seems that Kamala is to meet this new kid in school, and so come to find out, Kamala's confidence is to basically get completely wiped out, because of course Zoe was to be at Avengers Con, and she is to go on and explain to everybody what happened to her. And I think the more Zoe is just kind of talking about this, the more that she's just trying to exaggerate and embellish and try to figure out a way to make more content out of this. Because even though Zoe had that little mask on, you could tell who she was. And plus, also, she has this like internet like persona also. And so, yeah, so she had to go to Avengers Con so that way she could boost up her um, social media status. So we go on and we have Zoe who's telling everybody the story of what happened at Avengers Con. And now it feels like instead of Nightlight, which Zoe used to give the name for this girl, Nightlight. So, for which I'm assuming that's what they're going to keep calling her, and eventually it's going to be the joke thing, where it's like, oh, weren't you Nightlight? No. They're going to be keep calling her that throughout the whole entire season. So it's going to be the running joke. So, we have Miss Marvel. We have Kamala that's realizing her confidence is to be snuffed out by Zoe, and now she's like, ugh, like, God, why can't I just go on and feel like I'm popular for once, even if it's like her being in disguise as something else? So Kamala goes through her school day, and while of course they go on, and Zoe is to mention that she's throwing this party for what all had happened. And so Kamala and all her friends are thinking, like, dude, we're not going to go to that party. And then all of a sudden, the new guy is to get ushered into this new party that Zoe's throwing. And Kamala's like, we're going to go to that party because she's interested in that new guy. So, queuing up really just Kamala going to this party, and because Kamala is to go on and ask her mother, it's like, you know what, I get everything that happened at Avengers Con, like, I get that you're probably still upset with me, but, like, Mom, like, can I just go on to this party at Zoe's, like, and, like, I'll be home early, like, I promise. And so Muniba is to tell Kamala, it's like, well, like, you know what, like, okay, like, that seems fine. But if you're gonna come home, like, come through the front door this time, right? And Kamala's like, sure, I will. So we go on and we have Kamala, who also is to go to, I believe, her, like, her temple or her church. Not quite sure what's the right term there. People can correct me. That's okay. Kamala and Nakia go to this church, and so they pray, or they go on and they bow and they pray and whatever. So these guys are to put their shoes in a certain location, and Nakia seems to have her shoes be taken from her. So we go on and we have prayer being done. We have this this priest, this minister. I want to, like, hopefully think that I can go on and figure out eventually what the actual term of this is, but probably not. Nope, because why would they even have the guy? Why would they even have him somewhere on here? Because that would just be freaking easy, right? Moving on. So, if it already. So, Nakia is to go on and talk while the priest is talking. And so the priest is going up like, hey, like, you know what? Like, I appreciate anybody who's going to go on and kind of add to what's that can kind of help me in the future. but if anything, like probably not doing it while I'm lecturing anybody. So Nakia is kind of just being told to kind of just shut up, because Nakia is to realize that they can't really see the priest while they're praying, and because there's kind of like this kind of guard up, and the priest goes on and says like, well, like that whole guard thing there is up for a reason, um, so that way like these men don't go on and see these women, and so it kind of divides them, and I'm like, that's just feels wrong. But that's people's religion, so like, hey, whatever. So we we also have it to where like the place where Nakia and all the girls are to be at, uh like the walls aren't all that good. They just kind of slap posters over stuff that like is to fall off the area that they're in. It looks really bad condition wise, like the area. So we have Kamala that's really just wanting to have Nakia run for this board election. So we have it where Nakia is to like, okay, like sure, like I'll go on and I'll run for this kind of board member, and like I'll try to. I'm like, isn't she kind of young? Honestly, I can see this girl probably winning this election, but still, I think a lot of people would just say that she's too young, not that she's like a woman. Like, I just feel like she's kind of young against the guy who's kind of a much more older, maybe wiser guy. But it has nothing to do with him being a guy. It's just he's older. Maybe he has some kind of things that he could bring to the table that maybe this girl can't. But we'll kind of just see. I don't know. Like maybe this girl is just smarter than that guy, and maybe she is the right person, regardless of age. Anyways, whatever. So I don't really care. So we go on and we have Kamala go to this party. And so Kamala is to go on and meet with a guy named Cameron at this party, who is the new kid who had gone into this pool and made this kind of dive that was kind of very high, and he kind of flips and he does this kind of belly flop right into the pool. And we have Bruno who tells this guy, it's like, well, hey, that must have really hurt. And the guy is like, no, like I don't really like feel pain all that much, so it might have hurt. So we have it to where Kamala is looking at this guy, and there's a bunch of like fire symbols like popping up around him, and like she's like, God, this guy is fire, like I want him so badly, and he's toweling himself off, and Kamala is sitting on this guy's shirt, or standing on this guy's shirt. So she ends up moving so that way he can get his shirt, and so we go on. We have Kamran, who consistently is with Kamala, and so at one point at this party, they all leave together. Bruno and Kamala and Kamran. And so Kamran is telling Kamala that, like, hey, maybe at one point, like, you can borrow my car, because Kamala is to say that this is a nice car, it's a nice color. Bruno's like, the color is black. It's just black. But so when Kamran is to say that like Kamala can borrow the car, we have Bruno who steps in and is like, yeah, she doesn't have a license. She failed a test. And Kamala's like, yeah, I did. So what? So we go on, and so Kamran and Kamala are leaving this party, and it seems that both of them are to eventually exchange phone numbers. And Kamran ends up quickly texting Kamala. So Kamala goes into her house and she is dancing around, which I immediately fast forwarded through because I'm like, I don't want to watch boring garbage. Like, I kind of skipped the moment when, like, Sarah was to be, like, singing on Superman and Lois. I'm like, I'm fast forwarding through this garbage. Like, the dancing is not important, singing is not important in a superhero show. Why do we have it? This isn't Spider-Man 3 where we've gone on and we've invested in this character through numerous movies to just say like, hey, what left can we have to do? Like singing and confidence doing? Singing and doing some junking and jiving because that's all we can do, because what else can we do with this character? So Kamala is to eventually be talking to her parents, and then she goes on to go to her room where she, of course, is to try and call her grandmother so she can find out more about her bangle, her bracelet. So, come to find out, we have this family member who is to have this bracelet prior, and that girl upon this family is to have this very dark history. And so Kamala wants to go on and use this EDI, EID gathering to possibly get some more information about this woman. So so Kamala is to go on to have another day of school, and so Bruno at the end of it is to say, hey, like, let's go on and let's kind of test out more of those powers. Like, I want to kind of like see like your balance and this and that. And we have Kamala who's telling like Bruno, it's like, well, hey, I'm sorry, like I'm gonna go with Kamran and we're gonna kind of drive around, and because he's gonna like help me like drive. And Bruno's like, oh, okay, all right, that sucks. So because like I think Bruno wants to try to figure out a way to keep Kamala all to himself. And then we all of a sudden have Kamala's like, yeah, I'm more interested in this guy. And Bruno's like, oh, okay. Well, that was nice while it lasted. So, because they almost kissed in the first pilot episode. So, I don't want mixed race or whatever. Like, that's not important to me. It's just, like, when really looking at it, like, especially with the way this episode ends, it just feels like that guy was just there to get close to Kamala. And really, I think eventually Kamala is going to realize who she should really be with by the end of this episode, which will probably just be a girl. Or anybody else besides Bruno. It's just not going to happen. It's no. So Kamala is to go with this guy, and they end up going to eat together. And all of a sudden, we have Kamala who's realizing that she is to, of course, see her brother. And so, man, this episode, for the most part, just really doesn't have a good cast list whatsoever. Man, is that great. So, we go on and have oh my god, let me pause here for Amir, who comes in with his wife and is to start talking to uh to both Kamran and Kamal. And so so Kamala is to go on and just say that this guy is some family cousin of theirs, and that this guy all of a sudden starts talking with a British accent, and Amir is saying like, well, hey, you have a British accent. That doesn't make any sense. And so Kamran tells Amir that it's like, well, like, actually I was just doing some bit, like I was just trying to perform some like British bit, and like I just stuck with it. And Amir's like, oh wow, like your British is really good. Yeah, like what a joke that was. So they go on and they leave. And so we have later where Amir and his wife are trying to think of what song they should play while like they're dancing at their wedding. And so it seems because Amir's parents really liked Bon Jovi for some reason, that it seems that Amir's mom was to really like that "Slippery When Wet," whatever, like song or whatever, and Amir's like, that's gross. So eventually Amir is to say, it's like, well, do you think that we should dance to the song "Living on a Prayer"? And so it seems that Amir's wife knows Bon Jovi, so she's like, well, yeah, like I guess it's better um, uh, than some other song. Oh my god, the show. Anyways, so we then go on to this gathering of all these people, and so we now have the game plan being that Annika wants them to kind of approach a certain number of groups and to influence them to have Naka be this board member instead of having this other guy. Here is the thing, though. We, of course, have uh, Kamala's father, Yusuf, who is kind of torn between her daughter's friend and this guy that is his best friend. And so eventually we have Naka who's talking to him, Nakia, and she of course is to basically say, it's like, well, hey, I'm your daughter's best friend. How could you not go on and vote for me? And so we go on and we have her giving him pamphlets and buttons and stuff, and we have Yusuf that is also talking to his best friend. He's like, hey, what's going on here? And he's like, I don't know. So we have this guy just kind of caught in the middle, and man, does that suck. So we have Nakia who's rattling off all these lists of different kinds of people in this place that they're all going to try to hit. And they end up referencing, in technical terms, the Illuminati, but they end up calling it the Illuminantes. And I'm like, really? So, like, they did this show about around the time that Doctor Strange was being a thing. And because I'm sure, like, they filmed this stuff way in advance, like 2 years ahead of time, or a year ahead of time, or whatever, because probably COVID kind of took the wind out of their sails. So we have them go on, and so Kamala is trying to get more information about this girl who is to previously have this bracelet, because Nakia is to go on and have dinner with her family, and it seems that this bracelet is trying to show her something. It's trying to show her some woman that she is supposed to speak to. So we go on into this episode and have Kamala that is finding out about this woman. And so some people are saying that this girl was to have gone on and killed a man and done all kinds of crazy things, to where Kamala doesn't know who she can really believe. And so we also, in this episode, have Zoe, who's going on and being interrogated by the DODC, and the two agents that we saw at the end credit scenes are going in credit scene from the first pilot episode are going on and now questioning Zoe in this episode. And so what they're doing is they are telling her that they are really big fans of her work, that it seems that they are to now go on and use this low calorie popcorn that this girl had done a video about, and everybody's ranting and raving about this popcorn that she was to talk about, because I'm sure that these guys were to heavily look in to every single video that this girl had to kind of see if they had like any information on this girl that they could use against her. So the more and more they talk to Zoe, we have Agent Deaver that comes in and is saying like, well, hey, like, what is it about this girl that you saw that had these powers? What was unique about her? Like was she Indian? Was she Latinx? Like what was she? What ethnicity was she? So it seems like they're not really getting any answers out of Zoe, and so both the agents just decided, it's like, well, how about we just go on and just start going and looking at all these like certain locations, and maybe we'll kind of figure out where she is. So we go on, and at this event, at this EDI event gathering, we have this boy who is dumb, who is going on and being at this this kind of building, and he's going out of his way to have one leg in, one leg out of this window, and he's taking a picture. And I'm like, this has got to be the dumbest person I have ever seen on a show or movie or anything, period. This, like, why would you want to go on and tip your body out of a window? That is stupid. Just to take a picture. No one should risk their life to take a photo. That seems stupid. So we have this kid who eventually is to fall out of this window. It is now holding on to these curtains, and the curtains are starting to buckle and starting to snap off. So everybody's like, oh my god, this kid is falling, who's gonna save him? Kamala's like, aha, like, luckily I have my whole entire costume somewhere ready to go for any horrible things to go horribly awry. So Kamala switches into her Captain Marvel costume because she still isn't Miss Marvel, and she probably will never be until the very last episode. Like, oh, here's your costume now, because that's what it seems. So still Captain Marvel is going on and now using her kind of her ability to step on these little things of powers of hers, which there isn't a technical name yet of what this power actually is. And so Miss Marvel is going on and using these steps, and then she is going on and trying to use her power to have this kid just kind of fall right on this one step. And so all of a sudden we have Miss Marvel, who like is having a difficult time starting to use her powers. And so eventually Miss Marvel is to have this kid kind of fall on top of her, and then Miss Marvel is to use this one like power thing to have this kind of break her fall. And so, but we have the boy that starts falling, and so Kamala starts using little things to kind of start like slowing down this kid's descent. And then eventually he falls in this car and he's like, oh, my ankle. And so like more than likely for this kid, like people are going to go on and say like, yeah, like not probably her best work. But like she's still early in the game. Plus also like she saved the girl like in the pilot episode. Now she has to go on and make mistakes because she can't be perfect. Oh. So now all of a sudden Captain Marvel, I mean Miss Marvel, is running away from the DODC. They're chasing after her because once she is to try to get to this dark alley to run off, all of a sudden the DODC is there with their drones and they're coming after Miss Marvel. I'm like, what is this, like Edith? Like, is somebody bringing like Edith in and having these drones come in? And is this the aftermath of what happened to Edith with all these drones? I'm just kind of curious how they have drones now. These little drone things. Drones. Anyways, so Miss Marvel is going on and using her powers to eventually start like kind of making a flight of stairs to be above these agents, and is to go on and kind of drop on these drones, because we still have it to where Miss Marvel is also like her powers to go haywire because she's still getting this power where she's supposed to see this woman to get trained on what to do. So we have Captain Marvel, who finally is to dodge all the DODCs, and now we have it to where Kamran is having his car right then and there, telling this girl to get in the car. So she gets in the car, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Kamran, and like we just have it to where quickly this girl like reveals who she is, that she's Kamala. And all of a sudden, the backseat, we have Najma, I believe who it is. And she, of course, is to be the girl that Kamala is supposed to go on and train with, I'm assuming. And that Kamran is to mention that this is her son. And so, like, I guess Kamala is to probably be related to this kid somehow or another, or maybe there is no relation. Either way, you would have thought at some point, like, we would have kind of quickly ruled that out, but I guess not for this show. They want to kind of leave everything kind of vague. Whatever. So with that said, that's it for Miss Marvel Episode 2, boring as F, as it was. So with that said, that's covered for that freaking episode. I'm going to go on and review Kenobi, because at least I was way more excited by that show than I was of this. So, goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.